Hey, I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Give this video a like. We appreciate it.
Podcast below in the description. Check that out as well.
And check out our friends at decked.com/ham. You need it, John, if you got a truck.
Decked.com/ham. Go check it out right now.
Something we saw at in Tahoe when a fan asked Mahomes, basically said to him, like, watch out, Herbert's coming. And Mahomes' reaction was, I'll believe it when I see it. And I loved it. Kind of a competitive, just a good competitive reaction from Mahomes. So is it Herbert versus Mahomes for the AFC West? Do you have the I've got him here too. Do you have the over-under win totals there for the AFC West in front of you?
I do. And unlike the NFC West, where everything was relatively close, the skews. And clearly it should, right? It's a top-heavy division. The best team in the AFC the last 3 years has been the Chiefs, and their over-under is 12.5. And that feels right. Like, honestly, you can count on one hand the games they've lost over the last 24 months. They don't lose very often. Actually, the Raiders beat them, right, last year. It was one of their – I guess they mailed in that last week, but they were basically a 15-1 team last year. So 12.5, I don't know about you. I would take the over on that.
Yeah,
like to me, would you be shocked if they don't win 14-plus games this year?
14-3?
Yeah, feels about right.
Yeah. Depends how big the lead in the AFC West is by the time we get to the end of the season. But Tennessee, Indy, Buffalo, Miami, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, they're going to have to keep winning. So
Cleveland.
Yeah, good. Cleveland. Thank you. So yeah, I think there's a good logic there.
Chargers were filed for the Uzis and the Lamborghini. He's in a little trouble. Frank Clark. Yeah. Now, so 12.5 feels right. The thing that really jumps out to me, though, because we've dealt with this when we talk about the Raiders the last couple of years, like when you do the win-losses, even in the season, right? If you're like 5-3, you go, well, we'll easily be 5-3 the second half of the season, be 10-6. We're going to beat the Broncos and the Chargers. We have seen when those three teams play each other, it's a coin flip game, right? Whether they're good or bad, Denver can beat the Raiders can beat Denver, the Chargers can beat the Raiders can beat the Chargers. Like, Chiefs beat them all. Yet those three teams just kind of beat each other up. Yet somehow the Chargers, who have a new coach who's been in the NFL for 5 years, who's been a coordinator 1 year, their over-under is 9. Now, I think we all acknowledge their talent on their team. They have Pro Bowlers at all these different positions. They have more high-end talent than the Raiders. But, like,
they won 7 last year.
Which is, I think most people, what would you, if you just ask a random football fan how many games the Chargers win, they would go under
5.
that, right? Yeah. Where it felt like the Raiders were closer to 10, but they actually went 8-8. But they have the lowest over-under of the bunch. Is that kind of crazy to you?
That surprised me, yeah. I thought Denver would have a lower number. And it wouldn't have shocked me if the Chargers did. Now, the Chargers, it does feel like they'll be a popular team to bet to win. Like, I think people, just given Herbert, given the talent.
I think it's the quarterback first and foremost because they've had the talent the last several years, right? They think Herbert's a star.
The coach is such an unknown. Now, maybe it's just like, everyone thought McVay was an unknown. Not. Everyone thought LaFleur was an unknown. Not. Legit. So maybe you roll with McVay until he sells you a lemon. But, I seriously, right? Yeah. He hasn't sold a lemon yet. Belichick's great, but he sold some lemons in terms of assistant coaches becoming head coaches. So, from that standpoint, like if you really believe in Brandon Staley, the way that, Peter Schrager believed in Sean McVay, the story he told to, I think it was Aikman. I was telling everybody if they let him interview, he's going to get hired. And he was right. Then that's kind of an easy number, honestly, right? In some ways, if you really believe in Brandon Staley.
Well, that's the way this guy's talked about. He is, remember, Lewis loves him. Talking to him through Monday Night Football. Sean McVay loved him. Vic Fangio created him, like hired him out of whatever the school is that Josh McDaniels. They all come from Ohio. Not William and Mary, but that's John Carroll, I think, is the school.
That's right.
So it's like this guy is thought of. The difference is McVay had been in the league a while, right? McVay, when he got hired, had been in the league almost a decade. Had worked for Gruden, had worked for Mike Shanahan, worked for Jay Gruden. This guy, I don't know. I mean, I get it, and I love the quarterback. Who doesn't? I would say that both the Raiders and the Chargers and the Broncos, if I was doing this, I'd put them all at 8. And one of them will probably end up not one of them. Chargers or the Raiders probably end up hitting 10.
See,
I do think the Raiders are a little low at 7.
I think that 8 to me, 9 feels low. If you go, well, I'm going to bet on the Chargers to win 10, but then I think 8 can feel too low pretty quickly. I think with the Chargers, given that they won 7 last year, they could not finish games. They could not. I went back and watched was it the Steeler game? No, who did I tell you they were playing?
Falcons.
Could not get a field goal off with 30 seconds left from the 10-yard line at the end of the half. So they were a mess.
But there's no guarantee that like Brandon Staley can just pull all this shit off.
No,
right?
No, there's not. And there's no guarantee that things don't take a step back before they take a step forward, right? That happens sometimes where you can't just look at a player. You and I love Justin Herbert. Love him. But you can't look at a player and go, he threw 28 touchdowns last year? Great, he'll throw 35 this year. That's just not how it works, right?
No.
It might go that way, but it's just you can't assume that.
New offensive coordinator. I mean, there's just new coaches. Just change.
Yeah, but
the
what
league
if
changes?
What if all the players go, no, this guy's the man. Like all the defensive guys, all the game management. Like this guy knows what he's doing. He's just a savant. He's the same way players talked about Kyle Shanahan. And the other thing is like Denver. Oh, their defense is going to be their receivers. Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater, going to win 9 games in the again. They play in the AFC. Half of the AFC is really good.
I would have put their number like 6.5. To be honest with you, I don't think they're going to be very good. But I know this.
I didn't even. You know who we didn't mention, by the way, talking about the AFC? All the teams we listed.
Who?
Bills team.
The AFC is loaded. So even if I throw Denver out, here's what I know. Everyone expects the Chiefs to win. They're more than likely going to win. They feel like the lock to win this division. John Gruden, year 4, turned it all over. It feels like several times. Got rid of all the offensive linemen this year. The Chargers can't finish ahead of them. He has to finish second in this division this year. Or else, like this Gruden experiment, the first 3 years has not been great. That would be pretty devastating. To have 1 year Brandon Staley and boom, they're already better than you with a brand new coach. Yeah. You agree with that?
Like, I do.
Even if you miss the playoffs, but you go 10-7, the AFC's so good, and it was like took 12 to get in or something crazy. If the Chargers win more games than you, that would feel like, God, you guys are kind of just stuck in mud. You're going nowhere.
Yeah, unless the Chargers come out and win 13 games and you win 11, and you go, well, you're better. Good job being better. It sucks that you're stuck behind Kansas City and them. But at least that'd be progress. Like that's the one thing when I look at this number. The Raiders won 8 games last year. Only the Jags and the Lions gave up more points than the Raiders did last year. And they won 8. So how
you have all new offensive linemen, right, beside the left tackle.
It's true. But I will say, like, that's a major factor. But I will say that the offense is not, if you told me what do you believe Gruden can do, I believe he can put together a pretty competent offense.
I do too, but my point is that, like, whether you're a great GM, whether you're a great coach, sometimes you believe in an offensive lineman, but until, like, the guy has to play a lot, then all of a sudden it can just be eye-opening right away, like, oh, my God, this is not going to work.
And it's not something they've dealt with.
We know one guy can throw you off.
And
right?
It's not something they, in this, like in the Raiders can have some success era, Del Rio on, they've always had a really talented offensive line for the most part.
My question with the defense guy is how can they make like a dramatic jump? It's not like all of a sudden, they got 7 new guys. I mean, Yannick, yeah, he's fine, but he was traded multiple times last year. Clearly not as good as the hype. Yeah, and remember they ended up getting him for not that much money, so it's not like they think he's like some $70 million player. So even if he gives you 10 sacks, that'll be way better than what you had. But who's making all the tackles past the defensive line?
Well, the
right?
linebackers thing is still a question.
And the defensive backs, like, okay, you drafted a bunch of guys, like there's just a lot of question marks with their back 7, and their front 4 is like Yannick's just going to save the day.
But we're not asking much here. This number's 7.
No, I think the over's a lock, okay. But
no, it's legitimate then.
I think the way the Raiders are talked about, it's like we're in year 4 of this $100 million experiment here, right?
And it's still an experiment.
Yeah. Honestly, that's an embarrassing number. That's the way you're thought of. That was not the plan. And this is where I give credit to the guy that doesn't iron his shirt. He realized they needed a star to go into Vegas. And he was right. And John is a huge star. And in fairness, there was a lot of hype between him, and he resonated with the Raiders. Like, I admire that. He did the opposite of what a lot, like Dean Spanos, you couldn't pay him to do that. He wouldn't, even though if Dean would have just got Lincoln Riley, not that it would have moved the needle that much in LA, it would have been a really big deal to go out Urban Meyer or Lincoln Riley. He never would. Mark was trying to do that, and I give him credit for doing it. Maybe did he get taken advantage of a little bit? Like, I really want to be a Raider, but 10 years, 100 million. Well, so you wouldn't coach for like 7 years, 70 million? You need 100 million?
Yeah, but he
like,
won
I'm
the
not
bid.
Going anywhere.
He won the bid. You give him credit. A guy, to your point, plenty of other people have talked about, is this the year somebody can get John Gruden come out of the booth?
And then once you do it, like, I give him credit for, like, once you do it, you just got to let John be John, right? Just let him do it. It's major.
Did
up
John
in the
know
air right
McDonough wasn't coming back when he took that job? No, I don't think he did. Remember, because we knew before Monday Night Football was done that John was leaving the booth.
Do you think John left the booth because he got tired of the booth, or more because he had itch to come back? Or were they both kind of interconnected?
I don't know. I hadn't really thought of that until just now. Maybe they were connected. Because I read some of the McDonough stuff, it wasn't enjoyable for him. Maybe it wasn't enjoyable for John. Because
one of those maybe you just get bored. You've been
million.
doing it. You've been doing it a decade.
It took $100 million.
Well, he was making a lot, right?
So it took 10 years. The 10-year number is more than the $100 million number, because $10 million. My question is, like,
you couldn't get him for $770, and I'm not blaming the Raiders.
Right. You were going to have to pay him $10 million a year.
Yeah.
Right?
So you couldn't. $770 wasn't going to get it done.
The problem is Monday Night Football. He basically had a lifetime contract, and he was only going to get raises. He was only going to get raises for the rest of his life on his lifetime Monday Night Football contract, right? So he's like, all right, they're paying me 10, and it's a lifetime deal. And then when Stephen A. signed, he would have got another. He would be making 15. Would
you say John was the biggest broadcasting star for like the last 5 years in sports?
Yeah, man. You look at this guy right here, man.
Yeah, he was unique.
Yeah. So
he was big.